Do you feel you've been indoctrinated and maybe you don't even know where it comes from?
I don't believe everybody's meant to be a mom, and that's perfectly okay. I knew from the time I was like 8 years old that I wanted 10 kids, you know? And I feel like your kids are your greatest teachers. I feel like that's what they're here for.
Wow.
I feel like, and it changed my whole perspective on how I was handling cancer. And I really came to the conclusion that I could either let this break me or I can let this make me.
Hello and welcome, Wendy Porter.
Thank you. And thank you for thinking of me. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, I thought about you because you are very influential to women. And so I wanted to pick your brain. Anytime I have somebody or interview somebody, it's, just all transparency. I'm being greedy because I want to know.
Yeah. No, and that's fine.
So
it's good to be greedy.
It's good to be greedy, right?
Yes.
Tell me about that. Let's just start there. Why do you say that?
I just think that it's good as a woman to know what you want and go after it. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not even greedy. It's just going after what you want.
Do you think women feel that an embarrassment or a shy away from going after what they want?
I think so, yes. After coaching 7,000 women in 29 different countries, I would say yes. We don't go after what we want as much as we should, or we feel like we shouldn't go after it full force.
Why?
I think it's because we're taught maybe, or we're conditioned to really, sit down and look pretty, don't be too assertive. Don't be too aggressive, or you're considered, a B.
So are they doing that because they're afraid that they won't be accepted or attracted to men? I mean, from men?
I think that could be part of it, but I also think it's a society thing too. It's society has conditioned women to really not go fully after what they really want, to not be in their full power. I feel like if we did condition women from the time that they're young to go fully after what they want, I think women would already be in very high, powerful positions here in the US. And I think that we would probably rule the world, honestly. So, yeah.
So you have how many kids?
I have three kids.
So did you raise them or rear them to be and to think this way?
Yes, I have two boys who are 27 years old and 16, and a girl who's 19 now, young woman. She just turned 19.
Aww,
so yes, I raised my kids.
You don't even look old enough, but anyway.
Stop it.
It's very true.
Thank you. No, yeah, I did. I raised them to really look at women in that way. And so my sons are like that. In fact, my 16-year-old went to go see Barbie with us. So I've conditioned my boys to really understand women's power and to
How did you do that? If
that.
somebody is out there and they have a son and they don't know how to do that, what would your advice be?
I think it's just constant conditioning that women are capable, that women are just as powerful, that women are just as smart, just as capable. So it's that constant reminder and conditioning of that. And but also showing them by the way that I live and showing them by the way the things that I do so that they can see, a powerful woman in action. And my daughter is pretty darn powerful herself. So she's 19. She definitely she conditioned them very well too. She did a good job of conditioning them as well. So,
okay. So, playing devil's advocate here. Let's say there's a woman out there and she loves her role as a mom, as a homemaker. So how does she has three girls, where she might perceive herself to be, I can't show by example because I'm not perceived by society as being powerful because I'm not running the business. The husband's running the business. So she even feels herself that she is maybe stuck or maybe has low self-esteem in the fact that she might be judging her value and self-worth on the fact that she doesn't bring in as many dollars as the husband. How does she then come over that to be able to indoctrinate or instill upon the female children that they can go ahead and be powerful?
Well, I think and
I say that in quotation marks because I am I think there's no better job
That's
on
what
the
I was about to
planet
say.
as a mother.
So
but how
yeah.
does she feel? You know, do you know what I'm saying with the question?
Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like if you condition your children to understand that being a mother is the most powerful thing that you could do as a woman, then I think they'll ultimately they're going to respect that role. But I think also making sure that you have a life outside of your home too, I think is important, meaning like you have hobbies or you have things that you like to do, things that take you outside of the home. You're not just at home with your children and your spouse catering to them or serve, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not there doing that all day. I think if you had a healthy balance, it would, whether you are making a ton of money or any money at all, I don't think it'll really matter as long as you're showing your kids that you can be a stay-at-home mom and you can be a spouse and not have to work, but you still have your own life and your own things and your own, your own identity. Because I think what happens, and this has happened to me, I was married for 23 years and I felt like I lost my identity in my marriage. So I felt like who I was tied up in him, and he made more money than I did at the time. And so my whole life was my kids and my spouse, and I had no personal identity for me. And so one day I looked in the mirror and didn't even recognize the woman that was staring back at me because I had lost her somewhere, because I wasn't doing things for myself anymore. So I think it's okay to do that. And I think it's perfectly fine and normal to do that. I just think that having a good balance between the two is what's ultimately the most important part.
And when a woman is in that moment of having lost herself and not realizing that she lost herself, how does she even identify that to then go, wait, maybe I need to have a hobby?
I think this is why you need to stay connected with other women.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. I think why that's so important, because I know for myself, when I was lost, I wasn't connected to my girlfriends like I should have been. I wasn't connected to people outside of like my home. I was just my kids and my spouse. My whole life that was my identity. And so had I been connected with other women, I don't think it would have happened. I don't think it would have even happened. The whole thing would have happened, because I would have been able to, be out there with my girlfriends and, do things with them. And I'm not talking about going out or things like that, but even just going to the movies with your girlfriends, going for coffee and just staying, in a group of women and in a community of women who you can really share ideas with, and you can really, hone in on who am I outside of this marriage? Who am I outside of being a mom? And talk those things through.
Yeah. But obviously you'd want to pick your circle wisely.
Yes, definitely. That's important.
Yeah, because I think sometimes women, if they don't know how to pick wisely, and they're feeling frustrated in the marriage, and marriages aren't easy.
Right.
You're divorced now.
Yes.
That it could be sometimes detrimental to go hang out with the girlfriends that are going to be like, you need to be on your own and you're not doing, and they steer you into a path that alienates you from your husband. That's a tricky, because do you believe that, kind of how we feel maybe that we were indoctrinated to not stand up or to not go after our goals and our dreams? Do you feel you've been indoctrinated, and maybe you don't even know where it comes from, like myself, that as a woman, you were taught to be an independent, powerful woman and never depend on a man for anything?
I was not taught that, because my mom is so opposite of that. In fact, I think I became more of an independent woman because my mom is from a poor country, and she's from a poor country. She was really taught that you depend on men for everything. And so women don't pay for anything. Men pay for everything.
Where is this?
She's from Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's where she grew up. That's where she was raised. And then she married my father and, became a U.S. citizen. And so I was really taught that women don't do those things, that women are taken care of by men, that you don't take care of yourself. So I was completely opposite. And I think because I was so opposite of what my mom taught me, I wanted to be opposite of what she was and become independent and not have to depend on anybody. Because I remember her having to ask her husband if she could buy a pair of shoes. And I was like, I am not going to ask anybody to buy a pair of shoes. So I was like, like, no way. I don't want to have to do that. So, and I also saw that she really was in a position where money was, you know, she had to sneak money, or she had to like, it just wasn't, I didn't think it was healthy. And I didn't want to, I wanted to have my own money. I wanted to have my own money. I didn't want anybody to have power over me because of the money situation. And I think that's also another thing that women like often deal with is, you know, if they're not making money in the relationship, then some men, not all men, but some men will use that as a power move and as a way to control her. And so I saw that, and because I saw that with my mom. Yeah. So that made me go completely opposite and want to, you know, to make money for myself. And, you know, I was in corporate America for 18 years and I worked my way up that corporate America ladder because I wanted to make good money in corporate, not have to always depend on my husband to make money. Because I didn't want him to have that power over me. I didn't want him to
Me either. That was my biggest fear.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, I guess. But I also think that it's okay to depend on a man to pay bills sometimes. I think it's okay to be in your feminine energy and to allow him to be in his masculine energy and pay some of the bills and protect and provide, because that's what men are really like built to do. That's in their DNA, is to protect and provide. And so there's nothing wrong. I think it just needs to be a balance. It needs to be a healthy balance. It needs to be discussed between your husband and you, or your partner and you, on who's going to do what and what the roles are. And I know you and Grant have a great relationship with that. And I was in your relationship, your workshop, and heard all about how you guys do that. And I thought that's brilliant. As long as you have a healthy understanding with them on how what the roles are going to be, who's going to play what role and who's going to do what, and know where your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I think women definitely should have their own, you know, I do think that you need to have something outside of your spouse, you know, whether that's a hobby or whether that's making money on your own. If you have a husband who you know plays that power move, then you need to have your own money too. That's what I think.
So women, and I agree with this too. I feel that perhaps out of us feeling controlled, or maybe not knowing how to go after what we want, or maybe there's too many men out there that are afraid their wife is going to leave them if they have their own thing.
Right.
How do we handle that situation? Like, how do we raise men to not control women with money that want to be homemakers?
Yes, I think that this is why it's important. This is why I've raised my sons to be this way. And I would definitely call my sons feminists, you know, because they really believe in women's empowerment and that women should, you know, or that women can do anything that they can do. And so they don't feel like my 27-year-old has a 5-year relationship that he's been in, and they live together, and she makes more money than him, and he doesn't feel emasculated, and he doesn't feel like he's less of a man because of that. And so, and I think that that's okay. Like, I think that we have to condition boys from a very young age to understand that women are just as powerful as men are. We are, if not, honestly, if not so more. Even my boys think that women are the most powerful like species on the planet. They're like, you guys are unstoppable. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know what the right answers are to that. I know that it has to definitely start at a young age though, because it is a conditioning. It's a conditioning that boys are smarter, boys are, you know, stronger, boys do more. Boys have better jobs, boys make more money. You know, it starts at a very young age. And so I think when you condition your sons, I always say, you know, I'm raising my sons so that they can, you know, really be men who never damage your daughters. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's beautiful.
So like, that's my ultimate goal, is to raise sons that, you know, that your daughters don't have to recover from. Yeah. So
that would actually, in the pairing of the two, could actually be greater together.
Absolutely.
Than singularly.
Absolutely.
That's the ideal scene, right?
Absolutely. Definitely. Yeah.
Now,
definitely.
Did I hear you say earlier that the most important role is to be a mother?
Yes. Oh gosh, yes. It's the most important role I've ever done in my life. Ever.
I agree.
So yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's like the ultimate thing that you can do. It's also the hardest thing that you can do.
Agreed.
It's definitely harder than owning my business. So, and I'm sure you'd agree too.
A million percent.
It is. It's hard. It's challenging. It's rewarding. It's the most important thing that you could do as a mom. I mean, as a woman who is a mom, it's the most important thing that you could do is raise your kids and be active and involved in your kids' lives and be a big part of that. I think that's the most important thing. Because I never, my mom helped me with my kids a lot when they were younger and I was working corporate 10, 12-hour days. But the whole reason I even wanted to open up my business is so that I could have more time freedom to be able to go to their games, to their dance recitals, to their football games, to do all the mom things that I didn't get a chance to do when I was working 10, 12-hour days in corporate. Because to me, that was the most important thing, was being there for my kids, making sure that they understood that I'm there for them after they get off school, and I'm there to help them with their homework, and I'm there, for the important things that they have going on in their life. So to me, that's the most important role that I have.
Do you worry about a woman that's listening that might misinterpret, or maybe not, maybe you're saying this, I don't know, but might hear from hearing you say that if they decide to not have children or be only in the corporate world, they could be offended? Do you care about that? That it sounds like the ultimate is a mom and the most important role.
Yeah.
And then would they feel, or do you care how they feel about that?
I do care about how they feel, because I don't believe everybody is meant to be a mom. I don't believe everybody's meant to be a mom, and that's perfectly okay. Some of us were designed that. I believe you're designed that way. You're designed. I knew from the time I was like 8 years old that I wanted 10 kids,
Wow.
I stopped at 3, but I knew since I was 8. And so I think that it's something that is in you that like my daughter, she's 19 and she says she doesn't want any kids at all. So,
but she's still 19.
She's 19.
Like for me, I said the same thing. And then when 30-ish rolled around, I was still not really ready, because at 30, I got married to Grant, and he said, I want kids. And I was like, well, I've always wanted kids, but it was always so far off into the future that every time I got there, it would still be so off into the future.
Right.
So when I got married, I said I wanted 2 years of us being alone. And then after 2 years, I negotiated for another year.
Yep.
And then after that, it took me 2 years to get pregnant. But then I really, by the time I was 35-ish, or whenever I got pregnant at 30 or had the baby at 36, I was dying. Oh my God. But anyway, go on.
No, yeah, I agree. And I think that it's, like I said, I don't think every woman has to be a mom. I don't think that every woman should be a mom. I think that's right. Yeah, I think that it's your decision, and it's a very personal decision, and whether or not it's something that you're meant for or not. Only you know. And I knew that I wanted kids. Right. I will say this, what I do tell my 27-year-old and his girlfriend is wait until you're my opinion is wait to have kids in your 30s. I have both. So I'm perfect example of that. I had my 27-year-old when I was 22, and then I had my younger two when I was in my 30s. And I was a much more patient and better mom, I think, and so do they, to the younger two. I was just more patient. I felt like I was growing up with I feel like you don't even know who you are as a woman until you hit your 30s, at least, I feel like I didn't even know who I was. I was still trying to figure out who I was. Yes. And that didn't hit me until I was in my 30s. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am woman, hear me roar. When I finally hit my 30s, but prior to that, I was so naive and so insecure and so all over the place when I was in my 20s. And I look back and I'm like, no wonder I was so impatient as a mom. No wonder I was feeling like I was partying all the time still when I was in my 20s. I wasn't ready to be a mom, but I knew that I wanted kids. So I had him. And to me, it was the right decision. And I'm so grateful I did. But in hindsight, I look at it and I'm like, I was a much better mom to the younger two because I had them in my 30s. I was more established. I was more patient. I knew who I was as a woman. And so I didn't feel like I was growing up with them. I felt like I am the mom, so it's totally different, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have them in your 20s, you have them in your 20s, but
right.
I can say from both ends that I tell my son, just wait till you're in your 30s, travel, see the world.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah. Travel, see the world, get those life experiences. And then in your 30s, go for it.
Well, now that you have kids in your 30s or 20s, doesn't matter, how has that helped, or has it helped catapult you to levels that you never even knew you could operate on?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And how
definitely.
so? How so?
I think because with like I said, my 27-year-old, when I had him, I was really I felt like I was a baby having a baby, honestly. I was really so young, and he helped to really mold me into being more patient. So that's helped me become a patient person. And I feel like your kids are your greatest teachers. I feel like that's what they're here for. I feel like a part of the reason they're even, brought into this world is to be your greatest teacher.
Wow.
And so, yeah, they've totally changed my life. My daughter really taught me. It was because of my daughter that I knew that I wanted to build this empowerment network of women, because I wanted her to see a powerful woman and I wanted her to be a powerful woman and really be able to step into her power and not have all the insecurities that I had growing up. I wanted her to be, I wanted her to have that I am woman, hear me roar, like at a young age, so she maybe dealt with less heartache or less people, using or taking her for granted, or, less pain, maybe, I think. So I just felt like I want her to understand all her power, and I want her to understand who she is as a woman. And so I felt like if I build this women empowerment, network, that I'd be able to show her like what it is to be a powerful woman, so that she doesn't ever so she's never stuck somewhere she doesn't belong. Like she's not in a dead end, job that she can't stand, or, has a belittling boss that she's dealing with, or she's maybe in a marriage that's, horrible and she should get out of. I wanted her to understand she is powerful on her own and doesn't have to ever be stuck somewhere she doesn't feel like she wants to be.
Do you think she felt that way?
Oh, I think she definitely is. She feels that way. She's 19 now, and she got a full ride scholarship to Loyola University. She's
in New Orleans?
And Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We have a Loyola too.
Loyola, yes. And so she's going to school there, and she's a very powerful young lady, and she's very smart, and she's, she knows, her worth. And at 19, I was like, gosh, if I only knew half of what she, you know what I mean?
Yes. And let me ask you about that. So go back to when she was 13, 14.
Yeah.
And I ask you this because similarly, I want to fast track. I want my kids to understand like the whole thing that I understand now.
Yeah.
Because I want to avoid them having the pain and the trauma and all the mistakes that I had made or been indoctrinated in or whatnot. But I realized that I was not allowing her to just make her own mistakes. And so it's been a little bit of, where a conscious effort to where I can have all that, because she can see what I do with all the stuff that we do.
Yep.
We don't need to mention all that, but at the same time, so I've become more aware of having the conversations with her, listening without telling her, because I think she was thinking I was coaching her all the time.
Yeah.
And then now I will listen and not say anything unless she asks. And every now and then I'll be like, can I tell you from my parent viewpoint?
Yeah.
Or not?
Right. And ask
Did
permission.
you do that, or did you run into those similar problems? And how did you handle it if you did?
Honestly, I learned because my mom was very judgmental. She was a very judgmental mom. And so what I've learned is a lot of things the mistakes that my mom did, yes, it would have been easier for me and more comfortable for me to just do what my mom did. Right. But I knew consciously that I didn't want to I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be better. When you know better, you do better. So I wanted to be a better mom. And so one of the things that I had to do was really listen, like you said, listen without judgment. And I think because I learned how to do that and consciously made the effort to do that at a very young age with her, she tells me anything and everything now. And we have an open relationship because she knows it's a safe place for her to come to. She knows this is a safe space. I'm not going to judge her at all. Like when I got there, she's like, so Mom, I got a tattoo. I was like, oh, okay. inside I'm like, oh my God. You know
When
what I
was
mean?
this? When she was 19?
Yeah, no, yeah. When I just went to Chicago, I went last weekend for her birthday. So I was like, oh, okay. She's a freshman, right?
Where's the tattoo?
It's right here. It's 777. It's angel numbers.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I mean, it's angel numbers. That's my thing, right? I love angel numbers, 1111, 7, like I love angel numbers. So she, you know, and it's a tiny tattoo, but even if it was a big tattoo, I just, you know, like you can't judge, right? You just can't judge. Like that. I think that's the most important thing for moms to understand is that if you want to have a close relationship with your daughters, especially, you have to remove the judgment and the criticism from parenting with them. And that is not always the easiest thing to do. It is so challenging sometimes. But I feel like because I was able to figure out how to do that, she now comes to me and tells me everything, and feels comfortable and safe doing that. And that's all I've ever wanted. I never wanted her to feel unsafe with me or feel like she can't tell me something or feel like I'm going to judge her harshly for something, because I probably did the same thing. You know, and I don't have any tattoos, but I probably did the same thing or something similar when I was growing up. And the difference was that my mom judged me harshly for it. And so because of that, and because I was criticized and judged harshly by my mom, we don't have the closest relationship. And we don't, like, I will say we had a breakthrough this weekend because, you know, she admitted that there were some things she did wrong in our relationship, and she apologized for them. And I told her, you know, Mom, I feel like the most important thing is that I want to have a daughter who, like how my daughter is 19 now, and we slept in the same bed and I held her, like, and we watched movies all night. I never feel like I could do that with my mom. Like I told her that, Mom, I don't feel like I could hold you or that you would hold me. You know what I'm saying? Even at an adult, when I went through cancer, I didn't feel like I, you know, you would hug me or hold me. And she didn't. She wasn't raised that way. And because there was so much like pain between us because of the judgment and the criticism, you know, there's so much pain. I didn't feel vulnerable enough to be able to go to my mom and just hold her when I needed to hold her the most, or when I needed her to hold me the most when I was going through cancer. And so I felt that was one of the reasons why I felt, and I went through cancer about 8 years ago. And I said, I don't ever want my daughter to feel that way. I want my daughter to always feel like I'm a safe space, always, for her. And that she can, at 20 years old, she can hold me and I can hold her, and I can, you know, and that's exactly what we did this weekend. I haven't seen her in like 3 months and I've been dying to see her. You know, we both were missing each other like crazy. And so I went there and we, you know, got a hotel room. She slept with me in the bed and we watched movies and I held her. And so, and I feel like because she feels like she's vulnerable enough to come to me and be able to hold me like that, I feel like I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish with her, you know, as a mom, you know?
Yeah, %.
When they're younger, you can hold, you know, they're babies and you hold them all the time, right? And
was it a hard transition?
It was a very difficult transition.
Tell me about that part. And what age, and tell me everything you went through.
I would say at about 16-ish is about the time that my kids really, like my son is going through it right now, where, you know, I used to call him my cuddle bug, and we haven't cuddled in like a month, you know? So I have to remind him, you know, cause when he was like 14, he's like, I'm always going to be your cuddle bug, Mommy. Like always, you know, always be your cuddle bug. Cause he would see my daughter didn't want to cuddle anymore. I'm not going to be like her. I'm going to be your cuddle bug still, you know, but so I have to remind him, remember when you said that? He's like, okay. And he'll come and cuddle with me for a little bit on the couch. But I think around 16 is about the time that they really started you know, moving away from wanting to cuddle and like me hugging them and you know, so forth. But I think that for the most part, I don't know what I did to deserve my kids, because I know I wasn't the best daughter, you know, but for the most part, my kids are just amazing humans. They really are. They're amazing humans. Like I haven't had any issues with them. Like, you know, I hear, because my girlfriends have kids and I've heard all kinds of things that are happening. I haven't had any issues with my kids. Thank goodness. Not even with my 27-year-old, and he's 27. He's, you know, still, he adores me. He's like a mama's boy still. And
are the boys and girls different?
Oh yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah, they're all so different. My sons are more closer, like they're mama's boys, you know, they like to they love to show me affection often and as much as they can, hug me, you know, every time they see me. My daughter isn't as affectionate, But when she needs a hug or when she wants me to hold her, she can still come to me. My daughter's a lot more independent too than
And when
my
did
boys.
that start for her?
Her independence at a very young age.
Yeah.
She was I think it was
12,
just in her
13?
nature. Yeah. It was, I mean, so she was 8 years old even. She was very like self-sufficient, very independent. She came to me when she was like 9. She's like, I'm going to be a vegetarian. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what? She's like, I don't want to eat animals anymore. I'm going to be a vegetarian. I was like, well, I don't even know how to cook vegetarian. So can we wait? Like, just wait for like 1 year. And if you're still feeling like this in a year, then I'll support you 100%. Right. So she came to me the next year on New Year's Eve.
No
Yes.
way.
New Year's Eve. And she said, Mommy, I'm making it my New Year's resolution that I'm no longer eating meat this year. And I said, okay. And I told her to wait a year. So she did. She came to me on New Year's Eve, said, I'm no longer eating meat. And she hasn't ate meat since. And she's
she was
19.
9.
Yeah. 9 years old.
10 years.
Yeah,
Well,
10.
I stopped eating meat when I was 18.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
it's been a long
time. I haven't gotten there.
I support her decision.
I tried it for like a week. I didn't last very long. I was like, oh my gosh. But, you know, I just didn't last very long. I wish I could because I love animals. And I know the reason that she does this because for her love of animals. And I do too. But she's strong. I give it to her because it's not an easy transition, especially when you're young like that.
Yeah.
So you're used to going to McDonald's or doing, you know, unhealthy fast food type of stuff. Like they're, you know, to say you want to go vegetarian at 9, I'm like, okay, let's go for it then. But,
I admire that in her.
Yeah, she's very strong-minded, very independent, very strong-willed. She's just one of those kids that, you know, or my boys are more laid back. They're more laid back, more, you know, they're not as, you know, she's super independent. She's very independent. Yeah.
So what did the cancer experience teach you, and especially in relationship with your children?
Yeah. So with the cancer, it was actually thyroid cancer. And so, which I'm not sure like how familiar you are with chakras, but so it's your throat chakra, which basically is, for me, what I believe it was not really speaking my truth and not really, you know, being fully, because in my marriage, I was in a, you know, what I would say verbal, emotional, abusive marriage.
Suppressive, hold down.
Yes. And so, I try to keep the peace. And so I didn't verbalize myself as much as I should have. I didn't, you know, speak my mind as much as I should have, or stick up for myself as much as I should have. So I believe that's part of the reason why, you know, the whole throat chakra and the thyroid. It was thyroid cancer.
Thyroid in the throat
is your throat. It's
in
near your
throat.
It's
oh my God, I feel so.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah. So it's so I feel like that was the reason why, because I feel like when your chakras are out of balance, it's going to cause disease.
And so what did they tell you when you found out?
Well, they just told me we've got to remove it. You're gonna have surgery and probably radiation therapy. And
Did you?
Yeah. So we removed it. I had 2 different surgeries to remove it.
What stage was it in?
It wasn't staged at that point, thank goodness. It was just like the very beginning of it.
How'd you catch it?
Well, I was in corporate, working 10, 12-hour days, and I was in a, you know, high-level position there. I was a director managing 400 people, and I was so stressed out, but didn't realize I was stressed out because I'd been living like that for so long.
Right.
That literally like weeks before I had a panic attack, my eye was like twitching for like no reason at all. It was twitching, and I couldn't get it to stop.
I have a back twitch right now. I'm like, wait, it's been there for 2 days now. Okay, go on. I'm like, oh no.
You're like, no. Yeah, it was like twitching. I was like, what is going on with my eye? You know, but I was just stressed out going to work every day.
Like,
and then, on the way home, I had a full-blown panic attack while I was on the freeway.
Have you ever had one before?
No, that was my first one.
Like?
It was like, I felt like I was having a heart attack. I literally.
Pain in your heart?
Your whole chest. Like you feel like everything's closing in. You can't breathe. Like, I mean, I was sweating. I thought I was having a heart attack. I pulled over off the freeway. I got on the phone with my doctor and was like, I don't think I'm having a heart attack. No, I just called my doctor. Because I was like, maybe it's not not a heart attack. Maybe it was just a panic attack. You calm
but
down,
you never
breathe.
had a panic attack.
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
but you're trying everything
my mom
first.
had a panic attack before before. So I kind of thought maybe this is what it is, but it felt like a heart attack. So I called and they were like, just breathe, see if you can breathe through it. And I breathed through it. And they were like, you're experiencing a panic attack. Come in, let's do some routine tests, blah, blah, blah. So I went in, and through routine tests is when they found the cancer. They found they found a lump in my throat, and then they sent me to go get a scan, and then that came out, and then I had to do a biopsy, and so then it came back as cancer. So it was through that experience that I felt like, oh my gosh, I went through a phase of where I was like angry, why do I have to go through this? I was angry. And so I was drinking more, and I was like, I'm angry, reckless, you know what I'm saying? I was being reckless, and I was, they were like, you're going to have 2 surgeries. We're going to have to cut you here on the throat.
Did they?
No, I actually ended up finding a doctor who does it through the armpit.
Okay.
So, because I didn't want the scar, call me vain, but I didn't want the scar. And a lot of people, if you get it here, I felt like that's so barbaric. They've been doing it that way for like 100 years. We haven't found a different method yet. So there was a doctor who does it through the armpit, and he's, but it's not FDA approved or something.
Did you have to go out of the country?
No, I did it here, but I had to sign all kinds of waivers.
Got it.
Yeah. So I did that in Scottsdale, actually. But yes, I found him. It took me 6 months to find him. So during that time when I was looking, is really when I was going through my reckless phase. And so I knew that it was having an effect on my kids, and they were young. I think they were like maybe 3 and 5 at the time. But I remember I was tucking my 3-year-old into bed, and he's like, Mommy, can I kiss the owie that's making you so sad?
So he knew about it. You told them?
We didn't tell him.
How'd they know?
Because I was so reckless and so depressed and angry. I feel like they just picked up on it. Like the energy. They knew something was wrong. He just didn't know what. So he said, Mommy, can I kiss the owie that's making you so sad? Oh. And I just broke. That was my breaking point, where I just broke, and I just went I know.
That got me a little teary.
It was.
That was a hard one.
Yeah. It was
lump in my throat.
Was rough. It was rough. It definitely was rough. And so I went to my room, and I just dropped to my knees and just started praying, and just said, you know what? I need you to take this anger away. I need you to figure out, I need to be okay with this. I need to figure out how to move through this for my kids so that it's not affecting them. And I need to be able to move through this in a healthy way as much as possible. And so that's what I did. I prayed on it, and and it was crazy because at the time my cousin and his, my mom had told everybody, Wendy has cancer. So, and I'm very private. I'm very especially with my health, so I'm very private, but my mom isn't. And so she told everybody. One of my cousin's wives sent me a book, and I hadn't opened it because I knew it was probably something, I just put it on my, and I wasn't ready to face anything. I put it on my nightstand while I was on my knees praying. I saw the envelope there, and it was unopened. And I was like, let me open it and see what this is, because I was just being pulled to open it. And I opened it, and it was a book by Chris Carr called Crazy Sexy Cancer Survivor. And I read that book that night, and I literally read that book in one night. I stayed up till 8:00 in the morning, and it changed my whole perspective on how I was handling cancer. And I really came to the conclusion that I could either let this break me, or I can let this make me. And I had to figure out for my kids how to let it make me rather than break me. And so through that, I found a woman named Marie Forleo, because Chris Carr and Marie Forleo are best friends. Wow. And so I had subscribed to Chris Carr's email list. I got something from Marie Forleo that said that she was doing B School and teaching women how to build online businesses. And I was like, that sounds interesting. I had 4 months off of work. That was the longest I'd ever been off work.
Because of the cancer cycle.
Cancer, and having to go through the surgeries and so forth and heal and all that, the radiation therapy. So,
and your business was waiting for you?
Yeah, it was I didn't have my business at the time.
Not your business, but the corporate work. Company.
Yes.
It waited for you?
It waited for me.
Okay,
yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I took this course, this B School, while I was home for 4.5 months, recouping from 2 different surgeries. And it was really through that course where I decided I want to do this. This is what I want to do. I want to do this. I want to build an online business. I want to empower women. I've always been women's biggest cheerleaders. I always have been my girlfriend's go-to for every single thing that they have going on in their life, whether it's changing career or whether it's, advice with their spouses or their boyfriends or dating. I've always just been that go-to. I've always believed that, there's enough room for all of us to make it to the finish line. I believe that her success doesn't take away from yours. I believe that her beauty doesn't take away from yours. Her intelligence, her strength doesn't take away from yours. There's enough room for all of us to be there. And so I've always been that girl because I was bullied when I was younger in like 7th and 8th grade. I was bullied pretty heavily by some mean girls at the time. And I think it defined me. I was the new girl in town and I was an overachiever and I was a cheerleader and I was moved to a new city. And I think, being bullied and not having anybody to sit with for an entire year. So instead I didn't have anybody to sit with at lunch. I'd go to the girls' bathroom and just sit in there because I was too embarrassed to sit by myself in the cafeteria. And so I felt like I never want a girl to go through this ever. So I felt like I'll always befriend and make friends with the black sheep or with the outcast kids or with the new girl who doesn't have a friend. I'll always make sure that I'm friends with that person. And so from that point forward, I was always that person. I was always the cheerleader, but hung out with all the outcast kids. You know what I'm saying? With the kids who weren't considered popular or the kids who weren't, who were considered a little eccentric, right? So those are the people who I was more drawn to because I knew they needed friends, or I knew that they, I just felt like maybe they were bullied and I would stand up for them or I would be there to say something for them. And so then that really led me to always being the person who empowers women, like always. And always lifting women up, always being my girlfriend's biggest cheerleader, always, being there for them. And so I felt like when I went through B school, okay, I'm trying to figure out what my passion is. What do I want to do? And I'm like, okay, my passion has always been, empowering women, always. So that I know that's my passion. And then in corporate, my specialty was going into struggling staffing companies and turning them into multi-million-dollar branches. So that's what I would do there. So I was like, well, how can I combine these two together? And that's when I, built my business, and it's Crowned for Success. I built it and really made it into, not just,
When did you start that? 8 years ago?
I started about 7 years ago. Because I went back after my 2 surgeries. I went back to work and I let fear and self-sabotage take over. And I let that little voice in our head that tells us we're not good enough, smart enough, pretty enough. Who are you to do that? Too many people are doing it already. Mm-hmm. You're going to fail if you do that. That voice that we have, I let that voice take over. And so I went back into corporate for 2 more years and sat on my business idea. I had the whole idea of how I was going to do it. I sat on my business idea for 2 more years until like the other voice in our head, the one that keeps us up at night, that tells us, you can do this, you're meant to do this. I would have dreams and wake up in the middle of the night and start, writing down all my ideas for my business. And that became like almost a scream to where, because I feel like if you don't move, then the universe will, it starts as a nudge and then it'll turn into a push if you don't move, right? So at that point it was pushing me and I was like, I can't sleep at night. I was like getting no sleep at all. So I was like, okay, I can either I'm not getting any sleep anyway. So why not start my business on the side? What's the worst that could happen? So I just pushed through the fear. I pushed through the fear and I pushed through the self-sabotage and I started it as a side hustle and I built it into a multi-million-dollar company. So that was 7 years ago.
How good does that feel?
It feels really good. It feels really, really good. Yeah. Yeah, it does. It feels really good. I think it feels so good because I'm doing something I actually love to do. Mm-hmm. It's not something that is just a fly by night type of thing. This is my work. This is my passion. This is my purpose. This is what I'm here for. So that's, I think, why it feels so good.
Yeah. So you're divorced.
I'm divorced.
Are you dating?
I'm in a relationship now. I've been in a relationship for 3 years. So yes.
And would you consider marriage again?
I don't know.
Do y'all talk about it?
Yeah, we've talked about it.
Is this an area I shouldn't?
You ask me. There's no questions off limits.
Okay.
You can
I
ask
should have
me
asked
anything.
that before we started.
I'm an open book. That's
okay.
I'm like, I will tell you everything.
I appreciate that too. Me too.
I keep it real, all the time. So I'm just, whatever you ask, I don't take anything. I just, it's part of getting to know us, each other. So I like that. And that's what I love about you too. Because I know you're very open like that. But no, we talked about it. I can see us maybe doing something like a ceremony. I don't know that legally I need to get married, you know what I mean? But
if you're in a relationship for X amount of years, aren't you legally married?
Well, in the state of Arizona, no.
Okay. So you're not leaving Arizona?
No.
Okay. What scares you? Why do you think that is he the one you trust?
We've had our moments of mistrust, I think.
Okay.
And so, we've had our moments of mistrust. I've known him for 18 years, though.
Whoa.
And so because I've known him for so long, that really helps to overcome the little hiccups that we've had along the way.
Does he help you reach heightened levels of success?
Yes.
Does he make more money than you?
No.
If you did get married, would you make him sign a prenup?
Yes.
If he made more money than you and he asked you to sign a prenup, would you
I'd
be
be
upset?
completely fine with it. Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
If you made no money, you'd still sign a prenup?
I don't have any problem signing a prenup. No, I don't. I feel like if you love somebody, it shouldn't
Yeah. Oh,
shouldn't
I feel
matter.
the same way.
Like,
well,
yeah.
no, I know. I don't. I feel different. I wouldn't sign one.
No, you didn't want to sign one?
No.
Good for you.
Yeah, I was like, no. If
See,
I'm
and I don't
going
judge
in,
anybody who feels like that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's to everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
an uncomfortable situation.
Oh,
it's
I'm
an
sure.
uncomfortable topic to have.
Oh,
though.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So
no, I don't mind.
What if he didn't want to sign one?
I think that we would. I don't know. I don't think I'd.
Okay, but if he ever asked you to marry him, would you say yes? And his finances a reason why you wouldn't get married?
No, finances isn't even it. I think right now, I don't think I'd say yes right now. Would I say yes in maybe 6 months from now? Maybe, you know what I mean? But right now at this particular moment, probably not, because I feel like there's still things that we need to work on.
Okay, but
right?
Fast forward to 6 months, everything's been going good.
If everything's going great, yes, I would say yes.
Okay, so now you ask him, you say, I make more money than you. I want you to sign a prenup. And he says, no, I'm in it for the long run. I'm not getting into this to then you split, think there's some sort of out. Like we're in this. Now, what do you say?
I would probably say, well, then we'll just not get married legally. Maybe we can just get married like ceremony wise, or you know what I'm saying?
This is a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Even though when you say yes, is it forever or no? Because you've already been divorced.
I don't think that's true. I think yes is for. Here's another thing that may be controversial that I will talk about too, is that I believe in divorce, and I teach my kids also that divorce is okay. And the reason why this is the way I kind of put it is, do I want you to get divorced? No. Would I rather you work it out for the long haul? Absolutely. You should definitely do everything you can to try to work it out. But I've seen way too many women, including myself, be stuck somewhere they don't want to be or shouldn't be anymore, because they've been conditioned to believe that divorce is bad, or that it's not a good thing, or that you should stick it through no matter what. And I just don't believe that's true. I believe that you should not stick anything through that is going to compromise you as a woman, or you as a person or a human. If it's changing you for the worse, and you're not that, and people outgrow each other all the time too.
Million.
And if you're not able to get back on the same page with each other, I don't feel like I don't want that for my kids. I don't want my kids to be stuck in an unhappy, unhealthy relationship or marriage because they don't believe in divorce, or because they've been conditioned to not believe in divorce. So I conditioned my kids at a very young age that divorce is completely okay. It's normal. It's, it's okay to do it.
Is it normal?
I think that it is.
You think enough people make the wrong, what is, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What is happening with people that they don't know how to pick? And they just go into a marriage. What are the red flags that you missed? Well, how can they take responsibility that they picked that person?
Yeah. So I think that what happens a lot is that they think that they are picking the right person in the moment. But in actuality, and maybe they are picking the right person in the moment, but maybe 10 years from now, they're completely different. They're a completely different person. This person didn't grow. This person did grow. Because that's what happened with me and my husband is I grew by leaps and bounds. He is still the same person. We just took my daughter to Loyola for Welcome Week. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's still the same. You know what I mean?
The same thing happened to me with the guy I was with before Grant. I just wasn't married.
Yeah.
But he's still, I guarantee you, he's still in the same house doing the same thing. Like that was never going to change.
And I personally love men who are working on themselves constantly. Too. If you don't have self-development,
is the guy that you're with now?
And that's the reason why I say he's potential. He's potential. That's there's a lot of potential there. There's some things that still need to be worked out and ironed out, but he's definitely potential. But I love men who work on themselves. I love that. And I feel like it's so important. If I'm constantly working on becoming the best and highest version of myself, how are you ever going to meet? How are we meeting here if you're not? You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody's getting left behind, right?
That's right.
And so that's what happened with me and my husband. He never wanted to, even the work that I do, because even though I'm a business coach, I always teach around mindset. I always teach about self-development and working on yourself. It's always a part of my programs, always. And so even with him seeing what I do, he didn't have any desire at all to work on himself. No desire at all. And so it just was, how can we ever change this? It's never going to change. It's always going to be the same thing. And I knew that I wasn't able to be my highest version of me as long as I was with him.
Yeah.
I felt like he was an anchor instead of a sail.
Oh yeah. And can't have that.
Yeah.
No. I'm very clear as to the point of a relationship. It's to help me get to the heightened.
Exactly.
I can do what I can do on my own.
Exactly.
Like, why do I need you?
Right.
I can do that.
Exactly.
The whole point of being with you is because you help me get up there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if you're going to be,
and if somebody's helping you down level,
from 100%, you've got to go.
Exactly.
No, I get it.
And that's how it was with us. I felt like this is the highest I can get with him. I'm not going to be able to get any higher than this right here because he's not going to allow it. Number one, he felt, emasculated. He felt, he felt like I wasn't, I made more money than him now. And when we started off 20 years before that, he made more than I did. So
it reversed while y'all were married?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Boy.
So it was problems. It was just a lot of problems.
Wow. Yeah, I get it.
So it just didn't work.
Yeah.
And so I felt like, could I stay married and try to work this out? Yeah, of course. But
if he's not okay with himself,
if he's not working on himself,
be like trying to dig at you and poke at you because your success means he's not.
Exactly.
And with the person who has that mentality, no matter how much you try to work with them, they're constantly living with. There's no winning.
There's no winning.
There's no winning.
They're constantly like this, holding you.
Because your success means they're not. Rather than how can we be a and a team and go there together? And how can I help you be even more of this since you happen to have found the niche to make this thing? Where are we going? And if you don't have that same page working teammate and he couldn't get over the male-female role.
No, he couldn't. He was
in that circumstance.
And I could see how it could be hard because we started off as I was a girl when I was 20 years old. When we met, I was 20, he was 21, and we were young. And I get like how he can feel that way. And he still looked at me like I was that girl and never saw the woman I became. And so that was a problem too. You don't even see me for who I am now. You see me for who I was. And that girl's been dead and gone for years.
Thank God.
Thank God. Because
I don't want to go back to my 20 self. Oh, I know. So insecure.
I'll be 50 next year, and I'm like
50 this year. Well, I mean, I just hit it, but hit it this year.
Yeah, I'll be 50 next year, and I'm like, I would never, and I embrace it because of all the wisdom and all the experiences.
I love it.
I love
it's
it.
My favorite year. I've dreaded every birthday. I always go through this little depression thing. This was the first time where I feel so relief. I finally feel like I came into my own. I'm more excited than I've ever been.
I'm the same. I'm excited too.
I love the 50. The only thing I don't love is when you look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, wait, because we're women. And I'm like, oh, wait, why can't I have had this in the 30s?
No, that's why I'm like, Botox is my best friend.
Mine too. No secrets. I'm okay. Oh my God, this has been so amazing. I have loved picking your brain. You know how much you mean to me personally, and what you do
as well to me. I know. I love you. Thank you.
I know you do. I feel that.
Thank you.
I feel your support.
Yes.
And I love what you're doing for women and all the empowerment. And you've changed a lot of lives. And let's continue to do that and make a difference and go have these women feel valued and their potential and their importance to then go out and make their spouses better, their kids better, their communities better, and then we will rule the world.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I love it.
You.
I love you. Thank you.
Thank you.